Welcome everyone. We are now on YouTube. So for the first meeting for MAC this year, I will be starting the meeting today so that we can go through the elections process for both the chair and the vice chair. Before I get into that, I just wanted to say welcome to all of our new committee members joining us for the first time today, and also welcome back all of our returning members. And I would also like to introduce to you our new committee clerk, Julia McCarty-Jansman, who is joining us today on the call. Julia just started with us last week, and she will be supporting MAC going forward. So she'll be listening in and helping out as we go along. And so without further delay, there's Julia. Perfect. Without further delay, we will go into the election of officers. And so just for those who haven't gone through this process before, I'm going to call the nominations for the chair, and we will get a name put forward. A vote will go ahead for the chair, and then we will go to the vice chair, and we will do another vote for vice chair. Okay. So I am looking for a nomination for the seat of chair. Would anyone like to put a name forward on the committee? Yes, Councillor Neal.
Could I just point out that people are welcome to vote for, nominate themselves as well. Otherwise, we're a little shy.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Does anyone have a suggestion for chair? Councillor Neal?
Yes. I seeing no other hands up, I will nominate Caitlin Bruce.
Excellent. All right, Caitlin, would you be willing to accept that nomination?
Yes, I would.
Excellent. Would I have a seconder for Caitlin? I see Chloe with her hand up. Excellent, thank you. And are there any other nominations for chair? Okay. Seeing none, I will close nominations and I will call the vote. Please use the raise hand function to place your vote, okay? All those in favor for Caitlin Bruce as chair, please raise your hand. I would call that a unanimous approval. Excellent, thank you. And we will have everyone lower their hands. Perfect. All right, now I will open the nominations for vice chair. Does anyone wish to nominate a member for vice chair? Leah?
I nominate Andrew Ashby if he is willing.
All right, Andrew, are you willing to accept the nomination?
Yes.
Excellent. Is there a seconder for that? And I see Susan raised her hand. Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I will close the nominations portion and call the vote. All those in favor for Andrew Ashby as vice chair, please raise your virtual hand. And that is unanimous to me. Thank you very much. All right, I will now pass the meeting over to Caitlin to call the meeting to order and to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the nomination, Councillor Neal. I really appreciate it. This is the first time doing this for me, so please bear with me as I kind of learn as we go along. So, Julie, if you could help guide me through the process just so that I ensure what the steps are, I would really appreciate that.
Hi, Caitlin. It's actually Elizabeth here. I will help you through the process, no problem. So you're going to have to call the meeting to order, and then we will go through and do the approval of the agenda, which will need to be voted on.
Okay, perfect. So we'll call the meeting to order now. Next up on the agenda, number 3 is approval of the agenda. So I hope that everybody's had an opportunity to look at the agenda. Can I get someone to approve the agenda?
Caitlin, are you able to see the virtual hands?
No, so this is something
Okay.
that I might need assistance with.
No problem, that's all right. So I saw Matt Porter place his hand, as well as Councillor Neal for a first and a second.
Thank you. So now can we move on to confirmation, or do we have to ask if everyone's in favor of going forward?
We will require you to call the vote. Yes, please.
So is everyone all in favor for approval of the agenda?
I see everyone has their hand raised. It is approved.
Great. Okay, so next we have confirmation of the minutes. So the minutes from our last meeting on Thursday, November 5th. So I'm guessing we need a mover and seconder for this as well.
I see David Williams has placed his hand up, as well as Andrew Ashby.
And all in favor?
And I believe everyone has voted. That carries.
Okay, moving on to disclosure of pecuniary interest. Elizabeth, is this something that you could briefly describe for the members, especially the new members of our committee?
Yes, Madam Chair, for disclosure of pecuniary interest, that is up to each individual member to determine whether or not they feel that they have a conflict with any items of business that are on the agenda today. So if anyone feels that they have a conflict of interest for today, now would be the time to raise your hand and let the committee know. And Madam Chair, I do not see any hands at this time, so I think that we are okay.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to delegations. I don't see any on the agenda, so we can move on to briefings.
And there are no briefings today, Madam Chair.
No briefings. Okay, so next is number 8, business. So we have an accessibility office report for Q4 2020.
Madam Chair, I do believe that Ms. James will be introducing this report to the committee.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janet.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everybody's face almost, and also nice to see the sun today. I hope everybody is doing well. So for those members that are new to the committee, there will be a quarterly report that comes from my office that covers the work plan, accessibility statistics, etc. So I'll just give you a brief overview of that. So this report today is for the fourth quarter of 2020. So the city has a customer experience division that tracks all of the incoming inquiries to the city of Kingston in a number of areas. And excuse me, in Q1 of this year, there were 62 inquiries. In Q2, and by Q, I mean quarter, just so I should be clear. In quarter 2, there were 38 inquiries. In quarter 3, there were 77. And in quarter 3, there were 44. So that's the total number of inquiries that were received in each quarter in service areas, like I say, such as transit, roads and sidewalks, parking, and those do tend to be the areas of the highest number of inquiries. Each inquiry is received. It receives a work order. It is sent out to the appropriate staff person for response or action. And it's a way that the city can measure the metrics for the inquiries received. So it's not unique to accessibility concerns, but the statistics that we're reporting on are with regard to concerns that were related to a barrier report. The overall inquiries in Q4 of 2020 decreased from 77 to 48 compared to the same period in Q3 2020. There was a significant decrease in the areas of transit and parking, but there was a large increase in inquiries in solid waste. Compared to Q3 of 2019, when the total number of inquiries was 90, the decrease was seen primarily in the transit and the roads and the sidewalks areas. The majority of the inquiries received in the fourth quarter of 2020 were related to the placement of empty collection receptacles, so garbage cans and recycling bins and the like on the sidewalk. And they were reported as hazards just because they were in the middle of the sidewalk. It made passing by difficult, or receptacles that weren't collected or emptied. And our analysis of this is that the higher number of inquiries does appear to come immediately following a snowfall event. So it's often more difficult for customers to place their bins in a visible location, because depending on what time your collection is in the morning, if you've put your bin out the night before, if snow comes along, or if the plow has come along, it may obstruct the receptacle, make it not as easy to see for the collectors. And also the converse is true as well. When the collectors have emptied the waste receptacles, when there's been a recent snowfall event, it's not always as easy for them to place the receptacle back in a spot where it doesn't obstruct the sidewalk or fall off of a snowbank onto the sidewalk. So that's why the high number of inquiries were related to solid waste in the fourth quarter of 2020. I've also, you'll notice attached to this report, and this is a regular attachment that will come to the report, is the 2020 work plan. And so that's a document that is brought forward to the Accessibility Committee and approved on an annual basis. And I report quarterly on the progress of the initiatives on that. So I do expect that at our next meeting, I will be bringing forward a work plan for your consideration for 2021. We're very successful. The committee was very successful in achieving the initiatives. Everything was complete. There were some modifications that had to be made to a couple of the initiatives just in response to COVID. Social distancing and that sort of thing, particularly with regards to the National Accessibility Week communications campaign. What the committee had originally planned through the Awareness and Education Working Group was a series of videos to highlight, it's called I Can in Kingston Because, and the videos would highlight the accessible play structures and the accessible pathways through the various parks and across the city. But of course, with the social distancing requirements in place and the limits on social gathering and the fact that parks were actually closed, it really wasn't an opportune time to highlight, hey, here's what you could do, but COVID's around, so you can't. So we had to make some kind of last minute changes, and we were nimble in that aspect, and we were able to find some alternative ways that we could communicate about National Accessibility Week, and we worked with the mayor's office to provide a communication in that regard, and we had information that was shared on across social media platforms. So all things in consideration, 2020 was a pretty successful year, and I really appreciate all the work and the feedback that came from the committee members. One thing that you'll notice on this report, which is maybe a little bit different, is that it is a recommend report. Usually when this report comes forward from me, it is an information report. The reason for the recommendation this time is that one of the opportunities that has come up is the provincial government has announced a grant to the Rick Hansen Foundation for the completion of complementary accessibility audits. They are open only to select municipalities. Kingston was selected in the second round to submit applications. And we have done that for 2 facilities, for the Rideau Heights Community Center and for the Kingston East Community Center, which is under construction. We have not heard back from the foundation at this point, so we're not sure whether our applications have been successful, but the reason there's a recommendation associated with this report is that we anticipate, should our applications be successful, that there will be the need for the city to enter into an agreement with the fact we need to give authority to mayor and clerk to enter into any agreements. So this is just to make sure that should our applications be successful, that we will be able to sort of keep the process moving forward, so that once they're approved, the applications are approved by the Rick Hansen Foundation, we can sign the necessary paperwork to take the next step to receive those complimentary accessibility audits. Now, those audits will not in any way change the requirements for the City of Kingston to comply with the building code or our approved facility accessibility design standards. The benefit to Rick Hansen accessibility certification is that it has a little bit more of a universal understanding. It's not, accessibility in Kingston versus accessibility in Belleville versus accessibility in Brockville or something like that. It has a more national recognition to it. And so hopefully when this committee meets again, I will have more information on whether our applications have been successful. But right now they've been submitted and we're waiting patiently. And I'm happy to take any questions from the committee.
Madam Chair, I did see a hand up and it disappeared on me. I thought it was Penny. Penny, did you have your hand up? Yeah. She did have her hand up, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Penny.
Am I muted or unmuted?
You are unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I wondered about the Rick Hansen. Is it possible just to get a list of what is in that audit, just for information purposes only?
Certainly, we can share that information with the committee. All of that information is already available on the Rick Hansen Foundation's website, so we can certainly provide the committee with a link to that.
That was great. And my second question has to do with people that phone in for customer services. Is that like if you had a request for something, well, if you had like an audible signal that you'd like to see, would that be part of that customer service contact with the city, or is that a different type of function?
Through you, Madam Chair, Penny, yes, that would be something that could be submitted through customer service. So there, the opportunity to do it through customer service is either by telephone or by email.
So that would come out. That would come out in that customer service. That kind of it's not just complaints. Is what I'm getting at.
No, exactly. Yes, it's customer service. It's concerns. It's suggestions. It's just even if people have information that they want to share. And we really do encourage residents to submit their comments, their feedbacks, their concerns, complaints, whatever it may be, through that contact us email or through the customer service phone line, because it does give us a mechanism for tracking it. So for example, if somebody just called me because there was an accessibility concern, because when they were walking along the sidewalk, the garbage container had fallen off the snowbank and was in the sidewalk, I mean, I could reach out to my colleagues in Public Works and share that, but it doesn't give us that same metrics and measurement. And that's a really valuable tool for the city to see where we're doing well, to see where we're receiving complaints or concerns or a kudos, and so helps us know where we need to focus our attention and where we can do better.
Thank you. I finished with my questions.
Thank you, Penny.
Madam Chair, I also see that Dorothy Ann has her hand raised.
Hi, just a couple of quick questions about the Rick Hansen application. It sounds to me like it's like an accreditation process. So I'm wondering, is there money associated with that, or will there be any money forthcoming to help make those changes or support the staff
Through you, Madam Chair. So there is no cost to the city to undertake the accessibility audits. Should there be recommendations made, then it would be up to the city to budget for those improvements through our existing funding.
Are there any other questions?
I see Dorothy's hand still up, Madam Chair, but I'm not sure if her screen is frozen. So I hope she heard my answer.
I do believe we have lost Dorothy Ann. She
Okay.
doesn't seem to. Yeah, there.
Yeah,
she'll be back.
Well, I'm more than happy to repeat my answer if she didn't hear that. So maybe when she gets back into the meeting, we can just circle back with her and check that.
Madam Chair, I see that Nick has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Nick.
There we go. Okay. I'm not sure if this is an appropriate time to ask this question, but it's, well, let me know if it's not. In terms of the snow removal, you were mentioning the receptacles, and in terms of the sidewalk plows, is there a process in place to determine the order of the sidewalks that get plowed in terms of priority, and is accessibility needs factored into that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that not being part of the solid waste department, I don't know exactly how they do their priorities. I know that there is priority placed when it comes to street clearing to the most traveled streets, and then onto the arterial roads, and then onto the secondary roads. I'm not exactly sure sort of how they prioritize the clearing of sidewalks. One of the annual updates that this committee does receive is from the Public Works Department, and that is something that we will be able to address with them. And I will make a note of that question to make sure that they are aware that that is something that the committee has asked about, so that they can be sure to include that in their update when they do update the committee later on in 2021.
Wonderful, thank you.
Madam Chair, I do see that Councillor Neal also has a question.
Okay, Councillor Neal.
Thank you. Actually, just a comment to the last question from Nick. I've been in communication with Bill Linnon, who is our Director of Public Works, because we've had a number of issues raised with emails to councillors. Janet is actually absolutely right. There is a system that kicks in after the arterial and main streets have been plowed. There's also been some discussion, and I believe that in the core of the city, where we have the highest number of pedestrians, that there is a grid that's been established, as I understand it, for around Queens and the hospital to allow access, and near bus stations, our bus depot. So there has been some things addressed in that, but if you have specific concerns, you can send them through Contact Us, send them to me, send them to your counselor, and we can request, share them, and get some answers for you. So if that's helpful. So, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Neal. That's great.
Madam Chair, I see that Dorothy Ann has been able to rejoin us here. Perhaps we could check in with her to make sure that she heard Ms. James's response.
Hi, I didn't actually, I'm having some power issues in my apartment building today, of course. So I switched to my phone, so I should be okay from now on, but I didn't hear the answer, sorry.
Okay, I'm more than happy to to repeat that, Dorothy Ann, for you. And so through you, Madam Chair, you had asked me about the accessibility audits and whether if there were recommendations that came out of those accessibility audits, if there was funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if there was any sort of support for going through that process, because I've been through accreditations before and I know they're pretty grueling. So I'm just thinking, is there any support for that?
Yeah, so there is not, there is no fee for the audit itself through the Rick Hansen Foundation. The funding, as I understand it, is merely for the audit function itself. If there are any accessibility concerns or recommendations that come out of that audit, then that will be up to the city to take into consideration and plan for, as to depending on how small or large they might be and what the cost might be, to investigate and to budget for those.
Okay, thanks.
You're very welcome.
Madam Chair, I see that David does have his hand raised.
Okay, David, go ahead.
Thank you. It's just a follow-up to those comments, and that we as MAC, we have representatives on the 2 facilities that have been put in. I don't know, for consideration, I guess you would say, for that audit. So we do have MAC members on the committee already, reviewing the process to date for each of those projects. So we're in good shape so far, if everything goes through.
That's great. Thank you, David. Were there any other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any hands at this time. And just our normal procedure would be to go to members of the public, but I do not see any in attendance with us this afternoon. So if there are no other questions from the committee, perhaps we could move to the recommendation.
Okay, so the recommendation is that the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee recommends to Council that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to execute any necessary agreements or documentation required for participation in the Rick Hansen Foundation Accessibility Certification Program for complementary accessibility audits in a form satisfactory to the Director of Legal Services. So are we all, do we need a mover and seconder, or are we just all voting?
Madam Chair, we will require a mover and a seconder.
Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder for this recommendation?
Madam Chair, I saw Sherry Scott and Leah Riddell raise their hands.
Okay, thank you. And all in favor?
And I do believe, just waiting, it looks like that is a unanimous vote, yes.
Okay, so moving on to B, appointments to working groups. So the first appointment to working groups is for the Awareness and Education Working Group, and we're looking for 5 members.
Madam Chair, I see a couple of hands up. I'm not sure whether they are to, I want to make sure that there's no questions first. I'm just wanting to double check this. So I see hands raised from Matt Porter, Leah Riddell, Penny LeClaire, and Susan Mockler. And I want to make sure that they are putting their hands up for this working group. If they could unmute themselves and say if they are.
Penny LeClaire puts her name forward on the committee.
Thank you, Penny.
So it's Susan. I just have a question. So right now I'm on both the building working group and I was last year on the education and awareness group. So would it be better if I don't ask to be on the awareness committee again to give other people opportunities, or and just be on one committee? I'm just not quite sure what to do.
So it's Caitlin here, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's really up to you, Susan, if you would like to continue on the committee, or if you would like to step away from one, but still continue on another one. I think it's totally up to you how you would like to pursue the participation in those committees.
Madam Chair, it's Janet here. If I could, I wanted to just echo the chair's thoughts, Susan, that yeah, it's up to you depending on how much you feel that you have the ability to take on. The other thing too is with the working groups, I mean, it's 5 members and 7 members, but that's not a hard limit. Okay. So by you putting your name forward, you wouldn't be preventing anybody else from volunteering as well. And there is also the opportunity that even if even if you're not sort of an official member of one of the working groups, you're always able to participate at any time that you would like to.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. So then I would like to put my name forward for that group, for that working group.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, I see that Leah also has her hand raised at this time. I just want to confirm that she is looking to be on the working group.
I would like to stay on that working group. Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I also see Dorothy Ann has her hand raised.
Yes, if there's space, I wouldn't mind being on that group. I think maybe I could contribute.
Yes, there is space. Thanks, Dorothy Ann. That's great.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I also see Sherry Scott has her hand raised.
Just confirming that it's based on interest in wanting to participate in the working group.
Thanks, Sherry.
Okay. I do not see any further hands. I do believe, Matt, did you have your hand up earlier?
Hi, yeah, I did. I meant to actually put it up for the next working group, the built environment.
Okay. Perfect. Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any further hands. So just to review for the Awareness and Education Working Group, the names that I have are Penny, Susan, Leah, Dorothy Ann, and Sherry.
That's great. And are we asking for a mover and seconder on that?
Madam Chair, if it's up to you, if you'd like, we can also get names for the built environment working group, and then we can do an overall vote at the end of building the groups.
Okay, let's wait and do an overall vote. So moving on for appointments to the built environment working group, and we're looking for 7 members.
Okay, Madam Chair, I see lots of hands. I'm going to start with one and just ask that they unmute themselves and just confirm that they wish to be on the group. So David?
Yes, I do, please.
Okay, Susan?
Yes, I do, please.
Perfect. Janice?
Yes, please.
Okay, Matt?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Nick?
Yes, please.
Okay, Kate?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Glenn? Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn, I can't hear you. Your audio doesn't seem to be working. You're good. Okay, I see the thumbs up, Madam Chair. I think he's good to go. And Andrew?
Yes, please.
Excellent. Okay. All right, Madam Chair. So just to review, I have David, Susan, Janice, Nick, Glenn, Kate, Andrew, and Matt. Is there anyone else who would like to be on the group? And Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any further hands at this time.
Okay, so can we get a mover and seconder for the appointments to the working groups?
Madam Chair, I see that Janice and Matt have their hands raised.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Waiting for the hands to come up here. And it looks like we have a unanimous, if that includes yourself as well, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you. Okay, moving on to appointment to project teams. So I'm wondering for the new members of the committee, if it might be helpful if we can just review the project teams and a little bit about what they are.
Madam Chair, I perhaps might have to refer this over to Ms. Janes. As you may know, I'm also rather new on this, and I don't want to inadvertently add some extra information that might not be totally accurate. So perhaps if Ms. Janes could just address the committee, if that's all right with her.
Sure. So there are three project teams here. The City Hall Marketplace wing is there are some renovations that are being proposed for the ground floor of the City Hall wing. So that's the piece of City Hall that sort of sticks back out into the market. My understanding is that they are looking to conduct renovations to convert that to gallery space. The second item is the Love Kingston Marketplace, and that project team is also looking for two representatives. So the Love Kingston Marketplace is all of the initiatives that you've seen sort of since we kind of came out of the first lockdown as a result of COVID. So over the summer, you saw extensions of patios, you saw extension. There were certain streets that were closed to improve pedestrian walkability while still allowing social distancing, while to encourage residents to come and shop and enjoy the downtown, be able to enjoy restaurants, things like dedicated parking spots with like a 10-minute window so people could pick up takeout, that sort of thing. You may see a lot of the LED hearts that are in business windows, that kind of thing. So that's the Love Kingston Marketplace. It's an initiative to encourage and attract people to the downtown core. And then transit stations, that one I'm not as familiar with. Just going to scroll down. Bear with me for a second. I just want to scroll down and look at the project chart, because I believe that is a review of the transit transit hub, I believe. Just trying to take a look here. Do we have anybody on the committee who's been on that group before? Who might be able to fill in as well, just in case I've.
And I was just looking at David here.
Yeah.
It's near the end of the agenda. The last couple of pages of the agenda, and it's about upgrading the transit stations, and it looks like it's quite a big project going till 2023.
Yeah, it's a big one. For some reason, my computer screen is frozen and it's not letting me scroll down any further. But yeah, like that's a review of sort of the transit hub stations. And I think in particular, the transit hub on Brock Street. So each of these groups is looking for two members to volunteer their time and their expertise. the commitment will vary. The staff people who are in charge of the project will reach out to you. They may reach out to you by email. They may look to arrange meetings virtually, of course. Excuse me. They may have documentations, drawings, and that sort of thing that they will ask you to review and provide your comment on. They are not sort of formal public meetings like we're having today. They're more offline, working directly with the staff member who's responsible for the project. If that's helpful to any of our new members who haven't had the opportunity to sit on a project team yet.
Thank you, Janet, for that information. That's really helpful. So
Madam Chair,
before
that Councillor Neal does have his hand raised, perhaps if we could
Just very quickly, thanks, Janet. But I think this came up through EITP. Part of that consideration is to start to include active transportation rest spaces at some of those transit stops. So if it's the same project, it should also include some consideration for active transportation, cycling, pedestrians, so on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the project teams?
Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time.
Okay, so we're looking for 2 representatives for the City Hall Marketplace Wing.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any hands at this time.
Okay, do we want to come back to that or just wait?
Well, Andrew has raised his hand. He seems to be willing to assist. Is there anyone else at this time? And I'm not seeing anyone further. That's okay, Madam Chair. We can move on to the next one.
You know what? If it's okay, I can join that one.
That's okay. That's okay with the committee. I don't see why not.
Sure, I'll join that one. Okay, the next, we're looking for 2 representatives for Love Kingston Marketplace.
I see Leah and Sherry have raised their hands.
That's great, thank you. And the third is the transit station. So we're looking for 1 member.
And Madam Chair, I see that Dorothy Ann has her hand raised.
Thank you, Dorothy Ann. Okay, and so we are looking for a mover and seconder for the appointment to the project teams.
Madam Chair, I see a mover of Councillor Neal and a seconder of Matt Porter.
Thank you, and all in favor?
And Madam Chair, that does carry.
Okay, next is committee work plan update. It doesn't look like we have one at this time with the new meeting.
Madam Chair, through you and to you, it's Janet here. I don't have much of an update. I did sort of highlight that as part of the accessibility office report, but I did just want to mention that we are looking at having another meeting in March. The 4th, I believe, is the date that we are looking at. We will confirm that with you, but if that just puts a little bug in everybody's ear so that you can try and remember that date, because it is my plan to bring forward the work plan at that time. So just a reminder. The other thing that will be coming at that time is when I bring forward the report on the work plan is a proposed schedule of meetings. so that committee members know what dates we'll be anticipating meetings, so that you can actually plan your lives, because we recognize that you have other things to do and everybody is busy. And so we want to try and make sure that you guys know as much as possible what days of the week we're going to be asking you to come join us. And I do also anticipate for those members of the committee who have just joined the Accessibility and Education Working Group that we will have a working group meeting immediately following the next committee meeting, so we can address setting some priorities for what the working group is looking to achieve in 2021. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to motions. Seeing none. Next, notices of motion.
Madam Chair, I do see that Penny has her hand raised. I'm not sure if she had, if she wanted to contribute at this part or not. I'm just going to ask her to unmute.
I had a question and I couldn't do it fast enough for the last presentation. I missed what you said about the meeting that is going to happen after this one. Could you repeat that part, please? Because you were speaking kind of quickly.
I sure can, through you, Madam Chair. This is Janet. And so we are anticipating reaching out to you to call a meeting for March 4th. That would be a meeting of the committee, at which time I expect to present the annual work plan for the committee's consideration and approval. And then for those members of the committee who just today joined the Accessibility and Accessibility and Education Working Group, when that working group meets, it meets immediately following the Accessibility Committee meetings. We didn't have a working group meeting today because I wasn't sure what members would be on the working group. So I anticipate that we will have at the next meeting also when the main committee meeting finishes, that those members who are also on the working group will remain, and we will have a working group meeting. And I hope to have my report finalized in time to be able to have a meeting on March 4th. But I'm just waiting for some feedback from some of my colleagues as well. So it's not for certain yet, but that is the goal.
Thanks, Janet. Okay, so I think that we were on notices of motion.
I don't see any, Madam Chair.
Okay. And is there any other business?
Madam Chair, I do see that David has his hand raised.
I just wanted to follow up on the Built Environment Working Group. Janet mentioned about the Education Awareness Group meeting. So what we do for the Built Environment Working Group is meet every third Thursday of the month in the morning. So the next we scheduled one before this so we could welcome the new members and say hi to the older members for this meeting. But so that meeting will be 2 weeks from today, which would be the 18th, Thursday the 18th at 10 a.m., usually from 10 to 12. And that will be through video conferencing. But we can have a more conversation around the scheduling ongoing, but it's typically, you can mark in your calendars the third Thursday, hence the 18th of this month. And I will send out information. I should probably do that fairly soon, just to give a bit of an outline of what we anticipate, and that kind of thing for the new folks. So I'll have that out within the next several days. And feel free to My email was in that in the thing that was sent out. Feel free to use it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. Is there any other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I see that Penny does have her hand raised.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this is where I would ask, so excuse me if I'm not, but if it's near the end of the meeting, if I notice something that is not accessible on the website, would I bring it to this committee, or would I email the info at Kingston to indicate the difficulty?
Thank you for the question, Penny. This is Janet, and through you, Madam Chair. If you notice any issues with respect to accessibility, whether it's the website or a sidewalk or whatever, the best way to do that is through the contact us mechanism. Like I say, because it will be sort of recorded, a work order will be issued, it will be tracked. And there is, if it's with respect to a document that you're looking for, then there is a process in place. The city does have thousands and thousands and thousands of PDF documents on its website. I believe everything since 2018, 2019, 2020 has been reviewed and has been made accessible. But if there's something older or archival that you are looking for, there is a mechanism on the website where you can make that request, and our web staff will respond to you, make the document accessible, provide it to you, and then post it to the website. But the remediation of all those documents does take some time, but definitely if you're noticing an accessibility issue, please do report it through Contact Us.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any hands at this time.
Okay, so moving on to correspondence. So I'm not sure, is this something that you would touch on, Janet?
Madam Chair, through you, items of correspondence are included for the committee's information. They're not the subject of debate. So what we can do is just recognize that there is one item of correspondence on the agenda this week. It is from Stopgap, and then we can move on, because like I say, information is communications are for information, but the committee is not able to debate them as part of the committee meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
The date and time of the next meeting. So the next meeting for the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee is to be determined, but as Janet had mentioned, keep in mind the tentative date of March 4th. But she will be in touch to confirm. And last but not least, adjournment. So can I get a mover and a seconder?
Madam Chair, I see that Sherry Scott is your mover and Councillor Neal is the seconder.
And all in favor?
Well done, Caitlin.
Madam Chair, that does carry.
And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Caitlin. Great job.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye.
Guys.